Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Pat's Pulpit Pregame Preview. I am Rich Hill, and with me, as always, is Alec Shane. Alec, it's the first week of the NFL season. How are you doing?
Tell you, buddy, it's easy to forget exactly how glorious it is to sit on your couch for like 8 straight hours and just watch football. You easily forget when the summer's here and you're outside enjoying yourself. But from like 12:30 till about midnight tonight, 12 straight hours of football, it's very hard to be mad if situations like that.
Yeah, and I think, honestly, this has been an amazing day for the Patriots. They haven't even played yet. We can talk about the upcoming game against the Arizona Cardinals. It's going to be a good night, Sunday Night Football. But for right now, we have a whole bunch of other games to really talk about. I think we should cover them first because, in all honesty, I can only think of one game that really didn't go in the Patriots' favor this weekend so far. There's one game currently still in process. We'll update you as that game continues, but the Detroit Lions currently have a lead over the Indianapolis Colts, which is a great thing for the Patriots. And for me, when I'm looking at a week-to-week schedule, I care about really two things. I care about, one, the AFC East losing. That takes precedence over everything else. And then number two, I want the other teams in the AFC to lose. So right now, all three teams in the AFC East they've lost. You know, the Jets lost to the Bengals, the Dolphins lost to the Seahawks, and the Bills lost to the Ravens. So, Alec, out of those three games, which one surprised you the most?
I guess based on the results and based on going into the game, I guess the biggest surprise for me was actually the Jets game. I figured the Jets were at home. Fitzpatrick, Matt Forte, that seemed to have all the ingredients for a Jets victory. I think the Jets are going to be good this year. I still do, despite the fact that they pulled a classic Jets ending to that game. The Bills and Ravens, that was a pretty ugly game. Not much to really write home about on either side there. And then the Seahawks Dolphins, that game was another kind of game, which two late touchdowns kept it relevant. Otherwise, just a defensive stand. But the Jets, I thought they'd pull that one out. I really did. And then all of a sudden, the Jets fans would be out being all right. We're going to be great this year. Week 1 Super Bowl in the books. But what can you do? AFC is 0-3, and without even taking a snap, the Pats are already first in the division. So it's not that bad.
Yeah, I think that they were not great there. Russell Wilson suffered an ankle injury pretty early on. I think it was early in the third quarter. So the Dolphins were really just holding down on defense. Their offense did not look good. They have all the pieces in place to kind of copy how the Patriots took down the Seahawks in the Super Bowl. You know, they have a shifty slot receiver in Land receiving back in Arian Foster, and they couldn't really do anything. I don't think that they really understood or figured out what and how they wanted to play. They did suffer from a few really ugly plays. Kenny Stills dropped a really easy pass that should have been a wide open touchdown. That didn't really go in his favor. But you kind of look at the other games. I mean, the Bills, they put up 7 points. That's really disappointing. This Ravens team is not good. They're just suffering injuries everywhere on the roster. I mean, their defense hasn't been good for a few years. And I think that you have Joe Flacco in his first game back from an injury. And the fact that the Ravens won by putting up only 13 points, I think says a lot about Rex Ryan's offense and how he's just not a good overall coach.
Yeah, I mean, again, I made a bold prediction earlier this week that Rex Ryan would be fired midseason. Off to a great start with that bold prediction, I'm not going to lie. However, it just goes to show also that I think the Ravens this year, obviously it's week 1, and tomorrow is called Overreaction Monday for a reason. It's when everyone takes what happens today and acts like it's a complete microcosm for the entire year. A lot's going to happen between now and then. But we saw basically the Ravens offense of old, where Flacco takes his shots down the field. He hit Mike Wallace for a long one. But other than those couple bomb plays, they really didn't do anything offensively. And the Bills offensively themselves didn't really do much either. So I don't know. I think that there's a lot of sloppy football to be played over the next couple of weeks as teams get their feet wet. I think the reffing wasn't great all across the league as well. A lot of flags being thrown, a lot of crappy pass interference calls, a lot of bogus penalties. I'm seeing a lot of hits to the head that are not getting called. So I'm sure we'll talk about that over the coming days. But this is a pretty typical week 1 overall, in my opinion.
Yeah, and then we can talk about the Jets here, talking about sloppy plays. I mean, they lost by 1 point, and they're Nick Folk, who's usually a very, very consistent kicker. He missed like a 22-yard chip shot and an extra point. So not the strongest outing for him, but what can you do? I think that this was really, really great for the Patriots because everyone kind of predicted that the Patriots were going to lose against the Cardinals. now everyone's on equal footing in the AFC East. The Patriots will play the Dolphins next week, so they'll get their first chance to really get a leg up on the division. But the fact that the rest of the teams in the division started off 0-3 has to have the Patriots feeling pretty good about where they were and how they kind of expected to be. Because as you said, I mean, I never expected the Dolphins to win, but I expected the Bills to beat the Ravens, and I wouldn't have been surprised if the Jets beat the Bengals.
Yeah, totally. And I think the Jets and the Bills play next week too. So one team's going to start off 0-2 right out of the gate in the AFC East, which is nice. But again, I don't know. I think that the Jets. I think it was Phil Simms calling the Jets game. He's just the worst. And what I like about Phil Simms today, I think he's like, Nick Folk has never missed a field goal in stadium in September. And he went and shanked it. Yeah, it was just great. Vintage color commentator. These guys are all morons. I realize again why I watched most of these games with the mute button on. But you know what can you do? 0-3 across the AFC East is a great way to start, especially with a Cardinals matchup coming up. It's going to be pretty difficult for the Patriots to get done, considering the fact that Gronkowski's out, Nate Solder's out, Jonathan Cooper's out. Deion Lewis obviously is out. Sebastian Vollmerman's on the PUP list. Ninkovich. There's a lot of guys who will not be there coming into this game that would be really good to have besides Tom Brady, obviously. So very tall order for the Patriots in about an hour's time now.
Yeah, and it's never good to talk about injuries, but kind of going off talking about looking at the next few weeks, there were a few injuries that really will impact the Patriots. We don't know really what's happening right now with Mario Williams, but he's the starting defensive end for the Dolphins, and I believe he entered concussion protocol, so who knows if it's serious, or maybe he'll even be cleared before the end of the day. But if he goes and enters concussion protocol, there's a chance that the Dolphins will be without their top pass rusher next week, which would be pretty good for the Patriots, specifically seeing how weak their offensive line is. Then you look at week 3, the Texans have lost linebacker Brian Cushing with I believe it was a torn MCL, so he's going to be out for the next 6 to 8 weeks. So the Patriots are catching these teams. The Patriots are shorthanded. They are dealing with injuries of their own, but they're catching teams without their star players. And I think that, even if the Patriots don't win against the Cardinals, I still think it's very, very possible with all of their injuries that they can open up the season 3-1.
Yeah, I mean, this week, like you said, it's kind of a wash now. I mean, it doesn't really matter the result now. A win's going to be great, but if they lose, it's really not a big deal. Everyone's kind of on the same footing. Everyone's going to be 0-1. And you bring up the injuries, and I think it's interesting how we're seeing a lot of injuries all across the league. We saw it in preseason. We saw it in training camp. And now we're seeing it in week 1. Keenan Allen's out with an ACL. Brian Cushing, like you mentioned. A lot of guys went down hard in this early part of the NFL season, which leads me to wonder if maybe there's something they're not doing quite right with their new practice protocol rules, a CBA negotiation. It's actually having a detrimental effect on these players and having the adverse effect people thought they were going to have because they're not preparing well enough. They're not getting the hits they need to get. They're not getting strong enough because they're not getting as much practice in. And now it's kind of screwing them down the line. At least that's my theory.
Yeah, and the Patriots have been the biggest offenders of all because over the past, 5 years, they finished in the bottom 3 or 4 teams with regards to injuries. In 4 out of those 5 years, the one time they didn't, they won the Super Bowl in 2014. So we know how much of an impact injuries can have on a team and their long-term success. So the Patriots even fired their strength and lifting coach. To be fair, I believe it was the end of his contract. They parted ways, but he's now with the Lions. But the Patriots have decided that they needed to shift, and they're not off to a great start. So I actually have a question. We can talk about who's out. The Patriots will be without left tackle Nate Solder. They'll be without right guard Jonathan Cooper. They'll be without tight end Rob Gronkowski. Rookie linebacker Landon Roberts and rookie running back DJ Foster will not play. Recently acquired defensive back Eric Rowe won't play. And then tight end Clay Harbor will be inactive. But we knew that 3 of those players were already going to be out. We knew that Solder, Cooper, and Gronkowski did not make the trip. My question for you, and I think that this is kind of speaking to the Patriots coaching staff and their decisions, is that in the past with regards to the injuries, they were like, all right, well, we're going to rest you guys an extra week to make sure you're 100%. So with Donta Hightower last season, they're like, we know you could play right now if you needed to, but we're going to sit you an extra week just to make sure you're more than 100%. Do you think that the Patriots are doing that with these guys right now? And potentially like they're not so much more injury prone than other teams, but they're actually just more responsive and they're more attentive and taking care of and precautionary for all of these players and their injuries?
Yeah, I think it really is more the latter. They need to take care of players. It's a long season, and they don't have a lot of depth at some of these positions. And so I think I'd much rather have Gronkowski and Solder sit out this game and then be healthy for the 3 home games. Based on attendance at practice this week, I think it's nothing too serious. Precautionary measures, if nothing else. The only real concern I do have is if Jimmy Garoppolo just gets lit up tonight. If the offensive line remains a sieve, he's getting sacked left and right, he's shaky, he's tentative, and that's his first start, his first real NFL experience, just getting dominated by a very strong Cardinals defensive line. What's it going to do for his psychologically in the next 3 games at home? Will it kind of be able to come over that hump? Will he kind of be done? What's going to happen to him in his psyche? So that's my big concern from his perspective, because Solder and Gronkowski especially are guys I want to have in there as a safety blanket and as protecting him, because I don't really trust Cam Fleming against Chandler Jones personally, but we're going to have to kind of probably roll with that guy at left tackle. So yes, great. Keep them healthy. Make sure there are precautionary measures. Keep them out for this week so they can be healthy next week and weeks beyond. But if this ends up having a really bad effect on a battered Jimmy Garoppolo, it might have been a bad move. So I guess we'll see what happens.
Yeah, no, and that's the big question. We know with the offensive line, they haven't been that great. But to be fair, last week, Cameron Fleming was the Patriots' best offensive player, according to Pro Football Focus. So there is some hope. I know that he was playing against the Giants, like 3rd and 4th string guys, but he was out there and he was performing once Nate Solder went down with an injury. So there is a hope there. And then with right guard, I mean, Shaq Mason was always expected to be the starter. His hand will be in a club because he has a broken fist. So who knows how that will affect his play. But I think that with him in the lineup, so with Mason in there, you got Marcus Cannon, you got Andrews, you got Joe Thuney, you got 4 guys that are very capable in the run game. And that was also Cameron Fleming's MO, is that he's not as great in pass protection, but he's a very good run blocker. So if you have those 5 guys out there, perhaps the Patriots will be able to, Garrett will be able to produce out of the backfield. Maybe they'll buy some time. They'll establish the run. They'll help Jimmy Garoppolo start using the play action pass. It'll open things up down the field. So I think that this offensive line, I really hope that they don't do the rotation. That they'll have Adrian Waddle and Ted Karras on the bench. That the Patriots pick their starting 5 and they don't rotate, because this is not the game to do it. I think that they're already so shorthanded on offense, but they will have players like Malcolm Mitchell and Danny Amendola, players that have missed time with injuries, but they'll be out there. But I mean, not everyone's 100%. And so the fact that they're already playing with so much fire right now, I think that they need to be very, very careful about protecting Jimmy Garoppolo, because he is the hope for the team over the first 4 weeks. If they lose him, then 0-4 is a distinct possibility.
No, absolutely. I mean, I don't want to put Jacoby Brissett in anytime soon. And the talent level for available quarterbacks isn't great to begin with. And even if it was, you don't just draft or sign a quarterback off the street and throw him into your offense. That's an also recipe for disaster. So keeping Garoppolo upright and protected. And again, like I said, psychologically, I guess, conscious and aware of what's going on and just not at ease is really important. And you mentioned the O-line, Rich. So you basically are advocating that no matter what happens, this offensive line, no matter how bad they may or may not look in about an hour's time, you stick with those 5 guys and you roll with them no matter what happens. Is that your philosophy here?
Well, I mean, maybe not no matter what happens. If Cameron Fleming goes out there and Chandler Jones just like discards him easily, throws him away like a piece of garbage, then yeah, they should sit him and put in Adrian Waddle. But I think that the issue that the Patriots have done in the past is that they'll rotate players drive to drive. And I don't think they should do that rotation. They should stick to a guy. And if they pull him, then they're done for the day pretty much, unless there's an injury that happens. But they need to find a guy, stick with them unless they're atrocious, and then that's when they move forward. So I think that they need to move forward with their offensive line. Scarnecchia, the offensive line coach, already said that himself too, is that we're going to find our best 5 guys, we're going to play them. I think they've kind of stuck to their word as well, because they have Joe Thuney at left guard and they have Marcus Cannon. And no matter what other injuries have happened over the preseason, those 2 guys have remained there. So I think the coaching staff really wants players to get familiar with their roles. So I think that they're going to do their best to keep players where they can be in order to succeed on that line. And that kind of, I'll move along too, because there's one surprise on this inactive list that I wanted to highlight, because we knew that Solder, Cooper, and Gronkowski didn't travel. Eric Rowe joined the team last week, so it would have been a surprise if he was ready to contribute. Landon Roberts, it looked like he kind of got dinged up against the Giants, so I wasn't really expecting him to play. DJ Foster, I mean, he went to Arizona State. This has got to be a bummer for him. I believe it was either Tom Curran of Comcast or Jeff Howe of the Herald were saying that Foster has like 20 family members in the stadium that were ready to watch him play, but he's not going to be able to. So I was a little bit disappointed not to see him out there. But again, I mean, he's a young guy. He was battling ham season. I'm sure they want to rest him a little bit. And so they're trying to figure out, they have to manage the roster. Someone healthy has to be inactive. But the big name on this inactive list that surprised me was Clay Harbor, because Rob Gronkowski is not playing. And that means that Martellus Bennett is going to be the starting tight end. And we already had these questions over the preseason of whether A.J. Derby or Clay Harbor was ahead of one of the other in the depth chart. And I think it was just made clear now that A.J. Derby is the number 3 tight end in the depth chart. Clay Harbor is, I mean, he's a healthy scratch right now. And so I was reading something very interesting on overthecap.com, which looks at salary cap sort of information as well as draft and sort of compensatory picks. And so what the Patriots can do is if they cut Clay Harbor before week 10, they will likely get a 5th round pick in the next draft due to Akeem Hicks signing with the Bears. So the fact that Harbor's down at the bottom of the line, I think that the Patriots want to see what A.J. Derby can do. And if he does well, then I think Harbor's gone the first instance that Ninkovich and Brady are ready and able to return to the field.
Interesting. And I should know that. It's an interesting little tidbit about the compensatory draft pick. And I guess my concern about the Harbor sitting is that I think we're both in agreement that the running game is going to be pretty important in this game. If the Patriots want to be successful, you want to control the clock, you want to take the pressure off Jimmy Garoppolo, you want to make sure that the Patriots can move the ball well on the ground and give the defense time to rest. And then keep the game close defensively, maybe put it in Jimmy G's hands late to win the game. That's probably the best we can hope for in a lot of situations. So with Clay Harbor out, do you think that this doesn't bode as well for the Patriots running game, or you think they did this with something specifically else in mind that would allow them to run the ball effectively even without a blocking tight end of Clay Harbor's caliber?
Well, I have 2 ideas on this one. First one, James Devlin is the fullback. So the fact that he's still out there means that the Patriots will have some semblance of a running game because Devlin is a good fullback. The team really trusts him. He can produce. So I think that with Devlin out there will be some sort of action. My other thought is that I don't think that the Patriots are really going to spend too much time operating as a power running offense against this Cardinals defense because, I mean, there's not going to have too much trust in this offensive line. You know, we were saying that Solder's out. Shaq Mason has a broken hand. We don't know how well this line will handle this Cardinals rushing defense, and they love sending blitzes. They love sending defensive backs. I believe they sent defensive backs on blitzes the 4th most in the entire league last year. So that is going to be a presence. And so I think the Patriots are going to try and compensate for not power running by dumping the ball off to James White, dumping it off to Brandon Bolden, getting them the ball very quickly so they can make moves in space and so they can produce down the field. So I think that that's how the Patriots are going to function. You know, that they're not going to run the ball in between the tackles. They're going to pass it to the guys in like the wheel routes. They're going to do the slip screens. They're going to get it out quickly, get them out in space. And I think that surprised why DJ Foster wasn't going to be active because I thought that would be a part of the game plan. But I think that the Patriots do have an idea of how they're going to attack with the running backs, even if it's not necessarily running the ball.
You mentioned, Rich, that I think you wrote an article about how you're all in on James White for this game. That would speak to this philosophy. Is James White going to be your X factor for this game?
Absolutely. If I had to choose one X factor, yeah. I mean, it's going to be James White because honestly, I mean, whenever you watch him play, it seems like on a weekly basis, he goes out there and he converts like a 50-plus yard play. I have no idea how he does it. It doesn't seem like he ever should, but he'll catch the ball behind the line of scrimmage and then he'll break free and go to the 1-yard line and miss the end zone, get tackled. But, you know, he'll get all the way down there. And whether that play gets called back like it did against the Titans or the Texans, I mean, he'll at least produce. And so I think that this is the perfect game for him. Last season, he always stepped up when Dion Lewis was out. I think that he really gained the trust of the coaching staff after he had 1 or 2 games where the coaches were like, can we really trust him? Can we not? And then once they gave him, it was like 12 touches against the Eagles or something like that. In week 12, he just took off. And then the coaches were like, you know what? We can give him the ball. We can use him as a workhorse, as a receiver. We can kind of be like a Shane Vereen, but we can pass him the ball more than we did with Vereen. So I think that James White is definitely my X factor on offense because if he goes out there and he can contribute, he's going to make it a lot easier on Jimmy Garoppolo in the pocket because opposing defenses, I mean, they're going to have to dedicate someone to watching James White out of the backfield. It'll slow down the linebackers, and that'll buy Jimmy Garoppolo a split second more time in the pocket. So maybe that'll open up passing games for the tight ends up the seams or the wide receivers on the sidelines.
Makes sense to me. If you are a defensive coordinator, if you're Matt Patricia, How are you handling and containing this Cardinals offense, which is actually pretty potent? Carson Palmer is some people's, I think it's a little far-fetched, but some people are having Carson Palmer as their MVP candidate. I know a lot of people have the Cardinals as their NFC Super Bowl reps, including myself, actually. So this offense is going to be a little bit of a handful for the Patriots defense. Now, I think they're very well equipped. Personnel to personnel matchup wise to handle this Cardinals offense, but Larry Fitzgerald's going to be a monster. I think Malcolm Floyd's a very underrated receiver when healthy. Their running game is nothing to be questioned. So, how do you attack this Cardinals offense? Keep the game close if you're Matt Patricia.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be very, very difficult. When we spoke with the Cardinals writer at SB Nation at Revenge of the Birds, he was talking about how head coach Bruce Arians has this philosophy where he wants his offense to, they call them like home run shots. They want their offense to take at least 6 to 8 home run shots every single game. And that means that they're just going to try and launch the ball, just going to chuck it 80 yards down the field, see what happens. And I think it's because, if it happens just once, then you score. You get in a scoring drive on it if you just make one of those home runs count. And that's for offense, something that they can continue to do. And when you look at their players on offense, they're absolutely stacked. And you have Carson Palmer at quarterback, who's very, very competent. He's a top 10 guy. He's a guy who can carry the offense. Out of the backfield, they have David Johnson, who some people compare to Marshall Faulk, but Bill Belichick's like, slow down on those comparisons. Marshall Faulk is one of the most dynamic players in the history of the game, and he's in the Hall of Fame. David Johnson's a sophomore, so chill a little bit. And then they got CJ2K back there. So they got a lot of options. Andre Ellington as well. And then you look at the wide receiver spot, as you said, they got Fitzgerald, they got Floyd and John Brown. They have a really talented roster. They have a lot of really, really fast players there too, including like J.J. Nelson and Jaron Brown. Like, these are guys that can really take the top off of the defense. So I think kind of the way that they attack them is that they'll send the wide receivers really, really deep down the field. And then they'll kind of just leak the running backs out into the flat where there's clear and open space and try and challenge the linebackers to really make a play. And so I think one of the big strategies that the Patriots will have and what they need to succeed is that they need Jamie Collins to be completely locked down on David Johnson or whatever running backs out there. He can't let them pass them in the second level. They can't let them leak out into the flat in order to get yards after the catch. So I think the Patriots linebackers, more than any player on this entire defense, they're going to have to play astoundingly. I think Carson Palmer is not really a risk to scramble or to run or anything like that, but I think that the running backs, they're so vital to this Cardinals offense because it'll set up the deep plays. They'll set up the home runs. So if the Patriots can remove any semblance of a run game for the Cardinals, I think it'll help make the Cardinals offense one-dimensional. And then if the Cardinals try to do those home run shots, the Patriots can be ready. They can specialize. They can focus. They can stop them, and they can force some 3-and-outs and get the ball back to Jimmy Garoppolo, hopefully with some good field position. And then that'll be the only way I see the Patriots keeping up with them and like hopefully coming out with a close game, if not the victory.
So instead of Bather, where in the past where Belichick and the defense take away the opposing offense's best weapon, contain that person and force you to beat them otherwise, you're saying their best weapon is more just like the run game and the quick outs from the running backs. If the linebackers can shut that down and cut that out, that'll kind of make the offense more one-dimensional. And I think the safeties are actually very well positioned to defend against the deep ball. The safety handlers should actually be pretty good in that respect with Devin McCourty and Deron Harmon / Patrick Chung back there. So instead of saying, well, taking Larry Fitzgerald away, for example, you're saying remove the running backs, make sure the run game isn't effective, especially out of the flat, and force them to beat you long.
Yeah, I mean, my main thing is that they rotate their guys in the backfield. David Johnson is very, very talented. Don't get me wrong. He's not Marshall Faulk, but he's a very, very talented guy. And I think that with the Patriots, they need to focus on keeping him inside, in between the tackles. They can't let them get outside because that's where they win. I mean, David Johnson's a really big back. He looks like a wide receiver in the open field. He's that quick and Patriots, they need to focus on containing the Cardinals offense, even if it's not a specific player. They need to focus on containing the middle of the field. So whether it's David Johnson or Chris Johnson, and then even Larry Fitzgerald coming out of the slot, they need to make sure that whatever players are in the middle of the field are contained there. so that the only possible offense that the Cardinals can have would involve taking deep shots down the field, because I think that's a game that the Patriots are willing to gamble on. That I think that they love their safeties, Devin McCourty, Deron Harmon, those guys are interception machines. Same with Logan Ryan out there. And if the Patriots can force the Cardinals to keep trying to throw the ball deep down the field, then I think the Patriots feel like they can force the turnovers, they can get the ball, they can give it over to Jimmy Garoppolo and try and take advantage of that. And honestly, I mean, if I think that the Patriots are going to need to win the turnover battle in order to win this game.
Yeah. Secondary-wise, who do you have matching up on who? Do you keep Logan Ryan and Malcolm Butler on the outside? Do you have Logan Ryan shadowing one guy, following him over the field? Do you stay disciplined to your zones and your schemes, or what do you kind of do offensively in the secondary?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I think for me, I would put Logan Ryan on Michael Floyd. I would put Malcolm Butler on Larry Fitzgerald, and then I would put Justin Coleman or Cyrus Jones on the speedsters, because I personally don't think Logan Ryan or Malcolm Butler really have the wheels in order to keep up with the speed guys. And I think Cyrus Jones does, because he's a former wide receiver. He's a very, very fast guy. Same with Justin Coleman. Those guys are very, very athletic. They can play on the outside. They can slide into the inside. They're good in the open field. So I think Patriots put those guys on whichever speed guy, whether it's John Brown or J.J. Nelson. Whoever's on the outside, they put Coleman or Cyrus Jones. But I think specifically putting Butler in there with Larry Fitzgerald, keeping him very, very physical, trying to knock him off his block, I think that will be very, very important, because while I think Logan Ryan normally matches up, I mean, Fitzgerald and Michael Floyd are both big guys. So it's not like you can simply say Logan Ryan match up on this big guy. But I think that Michael Floyd plays more in the outside, more on the sidelines. I think that fits Logan Ryan's skill set a little bit more. So I think that will put him in a comfortable spot. I think Malcolm Butler's a little more versatile, so they can move him to the inside, and that allows the Patriots to use their speedsters with the other wide receivers. So that's how I would line up. But we haven't talked with you about this one. Who is your X factor for the Patriots? If you're Matt Patricia, who on defense would you be focusing on with the Patriots to have a big game?
Yeah, I think the easy answer is Jamie Collins, just because he's such an athletic freak and he controls the middle of the field. And I completely agree with you that the linebackers are going to kind of make or break this defensive scheme against Arizona. If they can take away that middle third of the field, if they can make the running backs think twice about going out in the flat before catching a shot. However, I'm actually going to go a little bit of a zigzag. I'm going to say Barkevious Mingo. I'm going to say he hopefully keeps the momentum going. I love saying the name Barkevious. Just yelling out Barkevious is just fun for me. So I'm going to say Barkevious Mingo, because I enjoy the guy's name. It's fun to say, and I'm really hoping that he kind of takes what he did against the Giants, which was awesome. Granted, against the third and fourth stringers, if he can kind of come in as a maybe situational edge rusher / kind of hybrid linebacker beast guy, and cause some problems for the Arizona run game, I think that could be a lot of fun to watch. Offensively, I'm going to go with AJ Derby, especially with Gronkowski being out. I think he's going to have a good day as a blocking tight end, and him and Garoppolo have a pretty good rapport already based on their preseason connection. So look for Derby to have a big day today with Gronkowski out.
No, that's a good one. I think that I already mentioned that James White's going to be my X factor on offense. I also think that the Patriots really need to focus on taking advantage of this Cardinals secondary. We know that Patrick Peterson is a very, very talented player. So is Tyrann Mathieu, but Mathieu is coming back from a torn ACL, so who knows how rusty he'll be. So I think it's important for Jimmy Garoppolo to test them early without taking some serious risks. He can't afford any turnovers, but he needs to test it. He needs to make sure that, give it to AJ Derby up the seam, see if he can make plays over these safeties that are brand new for the Cardinals. So I think that watching how the Patriots match up with this Cardinals secondary will be very interesting. But my X factor on defense, I'm just going to go back. I want to say Jabal Sheard. I think that he has missed. I mean, he's missed time this preseason due to a MCL sprain. But more than anything, I think the spotlight will be focused on him, because this is going to be the game where Chandler Jones returns. Chandler Jones was traded away by the Patriots to the Cardinals back in March. For them, he's having some impact, he's producing, and Jabal Sheard has been asked to step up into that role. So I think that I'm going to be most curious to see how Sheard steps up, to see how he thrives, to see if he can make everyone be like, all right, yeah, this is why the Patriots made this decision. Because last season he was outstanding. He provided the consistency that Jones never did on that defensive line, even though Jones had far greater upside. I think that Jones's peak is far greater than what Sheard had, but Sheard was very good every single time, where Jones kind of fluctuated. So I'm very curious to see how Sheard performs. So that's what I'll be looking for. Alec, should we do our projections?
Yeah, we should do our predictions. We finished the preseason 2-2. I took weeks 2 and 4. You took week 1 and 3. However, the bet was whoever won week 3 of the preseason got first crack at predictions, and courtesy of some jerkery on the Carolina Panthers part, you got it. So first shot, who do you got, Rich? Arizona Cardinals, Patriots, week 1. What's your pick?
All right, so the Cardinals currently are 9.5-point favorites. So I just wanted to read a stat for everyone that there's some bookies that are giving the Cardinals 10 points ahead of the Patriots, giving a 10-point edge. And so the Patriots have been 10-point or greater underdogs just 4 times under Bill Belichick. All of them were in the 2001 season. The 2 regular season games against Peyton Manning and the Colts, and then the AFC Championship game against Super Bowl. The Patriots won all 4. So I don't know if I would be absolutely crazy to think that the Patriots have a shot of winning this one. I wouldn't want to bet anything on it. So I do think that the Patriots have a really great chance of covering. They have been 7.5 or greater underdogs 9 times under Belichick. They've covered 8 of them. So I think that the Patriots cover. I don't know if they'll win. I don't think they will. But ultimately, I think that the Cardinals will get the win on this one. But I'm going to think it'll be like 27-23.
2023. All right. Yeah, I mean, I had the Patriots slated to lose this game back when Brady was still scheduled to start this one. I think that at Arizona Sunday night to, again, like I said, a lot of people, including my NFC pick to represent the Super Bowl, it's just a tall order. And now with Jimmy Garoppolo in, no Gronkowski, no Solder, no Deion Lewis, just basically the JV offense and missing a few key pieces on defense, I think it just will be too much for the Patriots to take out this particular time. What I'm looking for is the defense to keep it close, generate some turnovers. Maybe if they can be in a situation where Jimmy Garoppolo has the ball late with a chance to win it with like a field goal or a touchdown drive and he can't get it done, I'll be very happy with that. As long as it's not some like 36 points giving up on the Patriots side, I'm pretty happy with this. It's a defensive thing. So I'm going to say a much lower scoring game. I'm going to go Cardinals 20, Patriots 14.
Excellent. Well, hopefully the Patriots come out with a win because that would just be outstanding. If the Patriots do win this, I think that this is the greatest coaching job that Bill Belichick has ever done. I mean, without the greatest quarterback of all time, without the most talented tight end of all time, if he managed to pull off this victory, that would be insanity. He deserves Coach of the Year award, specifically if he just wins that one. Some other news, the Lions defeated the Colts 39-35, so that is great news. That just adds to the extraordinarily great weekend for the Patriots. And again, if the Patriots win today, they are the sole possession of first place in the AFC East, no matter how crazy that sounds. But Alex,
No, again, I agree. If the Patriots win this one, just the contest is over. Give Bill Belichick Coach of the Year right now, and we can wrap it all up from here. But enjoy the game. Should be a fun one.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Alec, I'll talk to you later after the game.
Sounds good, buddy.
All right. Later, man.